Hi, team. Well, welcome to 10 Talks. Today's conversation is all about your gut, the health of it, and most importantly, really, how do you set your gut up and your life up really to win? And sometimes to do that, we've got to figure out what's not working, what is working. We'd call that winning strategies. And how do we really find what's the best thing for our system, our gut, our health, what sets us up for great success? So today's conversation, we're going to talk about the elimination diet and what that is, how to do it, why it matters, most importantly, how you can take care of your health and make sure that you're really winning in your life. So, Dr. Hunter, great to see you. As always, we value having you on our team as our doctor and really appreciate your passion and commitment to gut health and helping us champion our own gut health. And so, today, when we talk about the elimination diet, certainly a word that lots of people have heard about. We want to go at it the way we do always, which is how do we own this in a way? Number one, what is it? What do I need to do? How do I win it? And how do I do it myself? Is it safe to do it myself? Do I need a coach? Do I need a doctor? How do we do it? So let's start with defining it. So, what is the elimination diet and what's the purpose?
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlette, for that great intro. An elimination diet is really looking at foods that potentially do not sit well with you, right? And thinking about what would I feel like if I got rid of some of these things that could be giving me problems. So when we think about just want to set the stage a little bit between food allergies and food sensitivities, right? People have heard a lot about these. Food sensitivities are on the rise. Food allergies are actually on the rise as well. And when we talked before about leaky gut and the importance of the immune system that is, related to our microbiome, it makes sense why these things are causing us more problems, right? If your gut health is not in alignment, proteins that are not supposed to be entering your bloodstream or toxins are getting in, and they can be really having impacts on our health. So, if you're not satisfied with the status quo of how you feel every day, thinking about do I have a food sensitivity, which is not a true allergy. A true allergy is a medical emergency. It can cause trouble breathing and swelling and things like that. But food sensitivities are pretty common. Like, I just don't feel well when I eat this. And some of us have gotten to a place with, our gut health is out of alignment. We're not eating or sleeping or, taking care of our bodies the way we need to. And we just kind of don't realize how bad we feel until we start bringing some of the awareness to, what's really going on? I've got a lot of fatigue, a lot of brain fog, a lot of aches and pains. My stomach is upset all the time, but sometimes it becomes the normal, right? We're just kind of suffering through these things. So, as we've talked about before, really bringing awareness to, let me take stock. How am I actually doing here? And if you've noticed some food intolerances or maybe I have a maybe I'm gluten intolerant, those types of things come into our mind. An elimination diet is a safe way to kind of take stock and see what's working for you and what's not working for you. So some of it is having that awareness, like, yeah, I notice when I eat dairy, gosh, the next day I'm feeling pretty crappy, I don't sleep well. Any of those things that you have in your mind, like, write it down, make a list, see what might be causing problems for you. We certainly know there's some common ones, right? A lot of people do have trouble with gluten. In my mind, it's not really the gluten protein that we have a problem with. It's really the processed flour, right? These white foods that we've talked about before, they're so far off from how our bodies evolved, and even how wheat evolved, right? In this country, it's been genetically modified, all those things. So it might not be that you have a true gluten insensitivity or a gluten allergy. You certainly can test for that, but the processed foods, right? Taking those white foods out of your diet, that's a place to start. Limiting processed flour. Dairy, another big one for a lot of people. Eggs for some people. Added sugar. These are the list to kind of start creating and curating. And the idea is we pull them out the diet and we do all of them at the same time because we want to get you feeling better, and you won't know what is the cause until the second part of this process. So the first part is, we hear it in the name, the elimination diet. We're getting rid.
Okay.
Then the next part is the experiment. How do we find out which one of these things was a problem?
Well, I just like to start with the getting rid of because how in the world do you get rid of everything? I mean, I'm thinking cravings, I'm thinking rituals and routines, I'm thinking, going out to eat. It's Food has a lot more to do with emotion than just the pure simplicity of, okay, get rid of gluten or okay, do this or do that. I mean, wish it was that simple and, go us from just being able to state it and make it sound simple. I want to talk about the emotional power that comes with, for instance, sugar, getting rid of sugar and being able to, what do we sub in or how do we emotionally really honor that we're doing this for a season. So, is there a certain amount of time that we go on this elimination diet so that we can give ourselves hope and know that, hey, I'm just doing this for a season to get myself set up?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. So, really, you want to do the elimination phase for 2 to 3 weeks.
Mm.
So, it's not forever, it's not a whole month, right? Um, and maybe you commit to a shorter amount of time. Maybe you don't want to eliminate all of the biggies. Maybe, dairy, you're kind of worried about that as an issue. Think about cutting out dairy for 2 weeks. See how you feel, right? I mean, a true elimination diet is let's take out all these things, but you can make it work for you. Um, and so, I think having that kind of end cap on it, that light at the end of the tunnel, that you're going to be able to add things back. So that 2 to 3 week window is what you would really aim for. Now, you may think, well, what am I going to eat? Right? I'm
Mhm.
getting rid of dairy. I'm getting rid of eggs, wheat, and added sugar. You get to eat whole food, minimally processed, fruits, veggies, beans, legumes, all the things we've talked about in the way we can fuel for our gut health. So part of what we're trying to do is really get the gut in alignment in those 2 to 3 weeks. Take down your level of inflammation, build up that healthy lining of the gut, build up the mucus layer, so that when you do start reintroducing things, your gut is in a much more stable space.
Well, I love the idea of this. I think it's really hard. Like, I think about my own life or my own little women or just the habits that we're in from an eating perspective. And we say, okay, what do I eat? And you casually say, hey, this is a good time to get healthy and eat your vegetables and do. Well, if that was comfortable or what I wanted to do, I'd be doing that in the first place. So there's a reason why, even if I don't really feel very good, I eat the sugar or I eat the milk or I eat something because it's not that I don't, I can eliminate milk, but it's in a lot of products from a dairy perspective. And so this just feels really hard in terms of being able to really understand, okay, if I'm eliminating dairy, I'm taking cheese out, I'm taking, really understanding when I say that because what's important to me is that I can have or our team can have the heart of, wanting to champion this and being like, "Okay, I'm going into the elimination diet, but I could be subbing in some things that don't work," or it just feels like we need to really coach people up on how to do this so that you're not kind of depriving yourself and really making it through a tough couple of weeks because you've cut everything out, but yet you've subbed in something that's making you just as sick and you have the best of intentions with it. So I'm going to ask you to coach us from this perspective because I love the simplicity of just get rid of it all. And I also really respect the power of emotions and eating and comfort food and rituals and routines, even knowing I don't even know how to cook that or I don't know where to buy it or it's just so out of routine.
Yeah, I think one way to look at it is again bringing the awareness to where you think you have a problem. And if coming back to the triggers, have you noticed how you feel after certain foods? So, you know, there's a list of probably 10 or 15 things you could eliminate. If you're, so one thing I would say is this is an investment in your health, right? And so if you are, I think you're right, Carla. Most people will not undertake a significant elimination diet unless they're in a really low place and they kind of don't have anywhere else to turn. So to eliminate 10 or 15 things from your day to day, you might be at rock bottom and like, I don't know what to do. I've tried all these things, so that might be we might come at it from that place. But if if you've noticed a pattern, like maybe it's dairy, maybe it's the added sugar, those sorts of things. I mean, pick 3 things, right? You could it's really we're here for you, right? We're going to help you win your well-being. So, I would start with some of the big violators if you're going to approach this and also make it personal. You know, for instance, soy protein does not bother me at all. I really enjoy eating soy products. And for some people, they're very sensitive to it. So it's on the list of things you might consider removing. Um, but if you have that personal experience and you know it's not an issue for you, you don't have to cut it out. Right. So I think
Let's
yeah,
Dr. Hunter, let's talk about that list because I do wanna start with our action of, okay, I'm ready. I definitely want to win my well-being. We're always going to be in that good to great model. So we hope if somebody has hit rock bottom, they have you, they have a doctor, they have someone that is really for them. Our team is much more people that are really doing well and they're committed to championing it and being even better. And so we're always looking for that fine tuning, like how do we tweak something for a big result? So take us through the list and then we'll talk about kind of what we sub in there as well.
sure. So, again, there's probably 10 or 15 things you can think of. Dairy for my teaching and what I promote with people is cow's milk, dairy, the white foods, processed flours, and processed flour, added sugar, and artificial sweeteners. Those are my top three. I think those three foods contribute to most of the inflammation that people are dealing with. When you go a little further down the list, it's eggs for some people, shellfish for some people. We've talked about the soy. Citrus foods, actually, some people have a hard time tolerating. The gluten and wheat, we've mentioned. And when you think about trying to get rid of processed foods, part of what you're trying to avoid is artificial colors, preservatives, artificial sweeteners. And then nuts would be another food category that, again, some people are more sensitive to. So, again, it looks like a long list, right?
I have hope listening to you on that. Let's just start at the beginning. Let's start with that cow's milk. And so when you say dairy, it isn't then eliminating all dairy, it's just starting with cow's milk, or what do you recommend there?
I mean, cow's milk is definitely what most people think of when they have dairy, right? But there are other animal milk. So goat milk tends to be a little bit easier tolerated for people. Sheep's milk, um, not as popular though, or as common. So when we do think of dairy, I just put cow's milk in there so you kind of understand what you're going through. But dairy is in a lot of things too, as we kind of alluded to. Um, so butter. Let's just talk about what would you cut out if you were cutting out dairy? Butter, milk and cream, things like ice cream. Cheese is a biggie, probably for most people. Sour cream, right? Kind of all of these things.
What
Yogurt.
about yogurt? Yeah.
Yeah, yogurt's on the list. So yogurt is probably the one dairy product that for, health and for microbiome health, it's still on the list for me. I think the big problem with yogurt for people is there's a lot of additives in yogurt. There's a lot of added sugar. I mean, how many different yogurts are in the grocery store? There's like 150 to choose from. So really thinking about plain yogurt and maybe a non-fat or a low-fat yogurt. Um, Plain means it's not going to have added sugar and you can still get the probiotic benefits. But from the standpoint of an elimination diet, if we think dairy is a problem, we're going to try to get rid of all dairy.
Okay.
And when I talk to people about what do I eat instead, I try to preface it with I don't necessarily want you to go out and buy all the non-dairy alternatives for all these things, right? Because non-dairy sour cream is still it's processed,
Mm.
right? But thinking about are there some natural substitutes that you can do? Like cheese was a biggie for me, and I feel so much better when I don't eat that way. But I had to find a substitute. So avocado, not everybody loves avocado, but I do. I eat almost probably an avocado a day. And it has the same kind of when you think about the feeling in your mouth, that richness, that creaminess, kind of that fatty mouthfeel that we get from something like melted cheese or sour cream or something like that. So that's kind of how I think about it. If it's something like a sandwich that I would normally have a slice of cheese on, or a salad, or some Mexican food, leave the cheese off, leave the sour cream off, slice up some avocado. It's going to give you a very similar experience when you're consuming it as far as the flavor and the texture. So
That's a
that's
great, yeah, that's a great winning strategy. What are you subbing in from a milk perspective?
so I do soy milk. That's just my personal preference. Almond milk is also a good option. I mean, there's kind of a funny meme about like how many plants can we milk, you know? I mean, there's 25 different versions. Again, I want people to focus on the least processed version that they can get and the least amount of added sugar. And again, soy might be a potential issue for you. Nuts might be a potential issue for you. So maybe it's I just don't add any sort of dairy alternative right now. I'm going to focus on water for hydration and I don't know, skip the cereal for a few weeks, right? It's
Mhm,
not a forever thing, but going to some of our most simple choices, like for cooking or baking or things you want cream in. I mean, I love full fat coconut milk, right?
mm.
Just a can of that. It's great in a soup or a stew or a curry. It does tend to have a coconutty flavor, so you've got to like coconut just like you're going to have to like avocado if you're using avocado as a substitute. But I think it can be a really good option. Something that's very simple that you can make at home is cashew cream as well. So you soak raw cashews and throw them in a blender. You can make it sweet or savory, right? So these are just little strategies, little
Mm.
tips of how to do that. So I put cashew cream when I make polenta, right? It makes it creamy, kind of gives it that fatty mouthfeel instead of putting in cheese. So
Mm.
those are some swaps.
Yeah, so love the winning strategies. So what else do we need to know? So the system for the elimination diet is to, if you really want to win your health, try to eliminate everything that you have on your list in terms of that you've kind of noticed. Wow, when I do this, I don't feel that great. Ideally we're going for optimum performance. So we want to feel fabulous. We want to be in that 10 zone. So the first way we could start is for a week, writing down everything we're eating and just kind of putting a stat by it. On a scale of 1 to 10, when I eat this, how do I feel? 10 is optimum health. I feel great. The energy is there. Maybe you have a code for a 7 is emotional eating and it felt good to eat it, but it didn't feel so good, afterwards. Or you can come up with your scoreboard so that you can really start to own your health. And so let's try that for a week just for your awareness of what you're eating. Most of us eat kind of the same thing day in and day out. So a week would be a good time. And then just from a scoreboard perspective, just like we would do in sports, let's watch our film. Let's see, okay, when I eat these things, I haven't felt that great. And let's be champions for change. Let's really change. What is it that we need to take out of that game of the week that we played that was really about taking care of writing down what we were eating? Let's just go for a week. Okay. I heard Dr. Hunter say 2 or 3 weeks. Let's win one week
Mhm.
and just have that hope of, okay, I'm going to be in training for my well being and I'm going to take out everything that was a 7 or below. So 8, 9, or 10 is what optimum health feels like. I feel really good when I eat this. 7 or below, or if you want to change your scoreboard to 6 or 5, whatever it is, then let's get rid of all those low stats. That's what we would do in life when we're working on winning life. Let's take the same winning strategy and do the same for our health and for our gut health and for this elimination diet. So then for that week, do the same thing, stat up, keep that same set of stats. And notice, wow, when I subbed in some avocado instead of cheese, I still had my Mexican food, or I still had a sandwich, or I still had a salad. And I raised my stat from a 6 or a 7 to an 8. Well, that's a win for us. And if you're thinking of it as a win, then you're going to get the endorphin hit, you're going to get the encouragement. We love a win. That gives us the power to be able to keep going. And if there's something that you really love and you eliminated it and you didn't really notice anything, go ahead, put it back in. Let's see what happens. The key is we really want to equip you to be your champion and to really recognize, how's my body operating? What am I eating? What am I putting in it? Is it really working for me? So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with creating that scoreboard, really playing for a week, game week, and watching our film, then coming in and eliminating anything that didn't make the cut into that 8, 9, or 10 zone, seeing how we feel, keeping really good records, and then just week by week kind of playing with it. So, Dr. Hunter, when you hear that strategy, what performance barriers show up? What should we not do? What have we left out there?
No, I think that's a really good way to think about it, Carlette. And again, if 2 or 3 weeks sounds like a long time, 10 days also is a good way to look at it. Then if you start on a Monday, that's only one weekend that
Yeah.
you're eliminating, right? So most people can, give up their cheese and wine for the weekend, right? So I like that idea. Again, we want this to work for you. I just want to make sure people have enough time to really see the improvements when they do the elimination phase as well. And when you're talking about your stats, after you've eliminated, the things that I want people to be thinking of is how's my sleep quality? Am I concentrating better? What's my mood like? If I'm physically active, how am I performing? Like, am I noticing gains? Um, or am I having less aches and pains? One of my clients cut out dairy and noticed she was a lot less sore after her workouts when she eliminated that, right? So we're talking about reducing inflammation. We should see that show up in the body in physical ways. How's your digestion, right? You're addressing the microbiome. What's your energy level? Are you noticing improvements in your skin? So these are all things as you're taking your stats I want you to focus on during that elimination phase because it's going to give you a lot more information, right? We want to be 8, 9, or 10. And if we can start thinking about that in those different frameworks, that can be helpful.
So, Dr. Hunter, it's really valuable that you talk about there be enough time to really determine if we're winning or not. Is there a time from an addiction perspective, like if we're addicted to sugar, if I'm statting up how am I feeling, it's going to be a zero because I really want the sugar. So, where is that kind of clearing or that cleansing time? Do we need 2 or 3 days before we start statting to let the body kind of balance and get a baseline? What do we do with the addiction side of it?
Yeah, a lot of uh, the cravings that we have may be related to the health of our microbiome. We've talked about this before. If you have critters in your gut that crave cheap fat and sugar, guess what you crave? So, the nice thing about single celled organisms is they don't live very long.
Okay.
So if you can, I think giving yourself a 72-hour window to really kind of detox and the thing is it's not like you're not eating, right? What we can focus on in the elimination phase is really making those healthy choices, right? Increasing our servings of fruits and vegetables, drinking more water, focusing on the whole grains, the high fiber, healthy protein, whether that's plant or animal protein, and really supporting yourself through this phase. And yeah, the first 24, 48 hours might be a struggle, but again, we know there's a timeline, there's an end cap. So we don't have to go through it the whole way. But our microbiome, you can shift the makeup of your microbiome into a healthier microbiome in about 36 hours. So I would anticipate, within 2 to 3 days, you're going to kind of be hitting your stride, and then you can really start reflecting how are things going.
So, team, what I love about this is it's the power of 10. And that is such a winning strategy for us. It's all about going for tens. And so, here's what I learned, Dr. Hunter, to really set us up to win our well being from a gut health perspective, starting with the elimination diet, is that we're going to create a scoreboard that's on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 is optimum health, really feeling great. And we're going to go for a week of training where we're writing everything down and we're statting up. Okay, when I had breakfast, what did I have? And I put a stat. My yogurt, my coffee, whatever I had, I'm going to stat on a scale of 1 to 10. Ideally, feeling good is that 8, 9, or 10. 7 or below is where I'm not feeling so fabulous. And you can certainly decide. So, we talked about a week. I love your idea of 10 days because let's go for a 10-day training period after the first week. Week number one is training. Just eat what you usually eat and write it all down. That gives us our week of game day. Then we're going to move into really that championship that we're going for to win our well-being. And let's do a 10-day season. 3 of the days are going to be really just elimination, feeling not so fabulous, a bit grumpy maybe if you can't have your sugar, or it's harder to cook or whatever's happening, just that human side of us that doesn't like getting disrupted or the change that's happening. Give yourself 3 days and just know it's going to be a rough 3 days. Give yourself a great support team. Surround yourself with people that are for you. Let them cheer you on. Be really open and honest about that you are going for this win. And the more people you can get on your winning team, the better everybody's going to feel because you'll probably give hope to other people, inspire them, get them on the journey with you. The way we win in life is through connections and love and caring. And boy, if you show up and you lead the change of, I'm going to win my well being and I'm starting with my gut health, let's do this together. 3 days, elimination of everything grumpy, not so fabulous. In sport, we call it like two a days. You know, it's tough, it's terrible, it's not fabulous. It's just getting you ready. And then we've got our 7 days to where we're going for it and be really intentional about eating, subbing things in, statting it up, and then let's see how you're feeling at the end of that 10-day training period. 7 days a week before to really get you set, and 10 days to go and win that championship for your well being.
Yeah, and then the next phase is what we call the reintroduction phase. So you did the elimination, you got through the hard part, you took out those things, and hopefully by the end of 10 days, you're really feeling great, right? You're 8, 9, and 10 in it easy. And you've maybe found some alternatives through the mix that are going to support you in gut health and overall health. I would say for sugar cravings, one kind of little winning strategy is, can you substitute, a serving of fruit for that sugar craving, right? Get some natural sugar, make yourself a smoothie, apples and peanut butter, something where you can kind of have that sweet without blowing the elimination, right? So that's another potential swap. Now that we're through that 10 days, we are in the reintroduction phase. So this is the continued experiment that for 2 to 3 days over in the next week or two, you're going to add back one of the foods from the elimination list. And you want to do it one at a time for 2 to 3 days. And you're still taking your stats,
Mhm.
right? So first time you had cheese again for after 10 days, it probably you were so excited, right? Um, but how did you feel afterwards? Did you break out in the first 48 hours of adding dairy back? Like that's a sign. So these 2 to 3 days per item that you're adding back gives you the space to say, is this still a 10 for me? Right? I thought dairy was a 10, but actually it's a 5 or a 4. And so once you have that awareness around the first thing you've added back, you kind of make the decision, am I keeping this or am I putting it to the side? Is this going to be the new strategy moving forward as we try to avoid dairy because we know it doesn't make us feel good? So you make that decision and then you start with the next one, right? So if you did dairy first, maybe it's adding back some gluten, or maybe it's adding back the citrus or the soy or the eggs. But you want to give each of those things that you've eliminated its own trial period
Yeah.
to say, what are my stats when I put this back in? Now, if the stats stay 8, 9, or 10, that food's probably not a problem for you. Or maybe you've reset your gut health enough that it's just not causing inflammation anymore. And so you could keep that in and then you move to the next one. And each of those eliminated foods gets its own little window. So by the end of a month, let's say, you've been through the training phase and gotten your assessment, you've found your trigger list, what you want to focus on, you've done the elimination, and now you've gone through maybe those 4 or 5 things and added them back slowly. And hopefully you've kind of narrowed it down to like, yeah, these 2 or 3 things really don't serve me, right? I feel much less than a 10 when they're in my body. And to me, that makes it an easy choice, right? It's
Mhm.
not about deprivation anymore. It's about this really doesn't lead to optimal performance. And so I get to choose moving forward whether I include that or not. But now you have that awareness and you can make the change versus before you did this process, we didn't know what was going on, right? We didn't know if it was dairy or soy or eggs or wheat. So now we're in a much more coached up spot to be able to make the choice for ourselves and really choose to win our well-being based on what we know.
Now, Dr. Hunter, you said it takes 36 days to reset. I mean, 36 hours, pardon me, 36 hours to reset our gut. So, do we need to go a good 2 days, 3 days with that as we introduce each one back in? Do we go for 3 days? What's the ideal way to really make sure that we're figuring this out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a window. It's gonna depend for everybody. I mean, you might add it back when so I did this program before, and when I started adding dairy back, it was a very immediate response.
Okay.
I would love eating it when it was in my mouth, and about 5 or 10 minutes later, when it hit my stomach, I mean, I was doubled over. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is the
Yeah.
thing. I need to get rid of this
Yeah.
thing," right? And I had no idea how bad I felt all the time because
Mm.
that was just my status quo. So, you'll probably know
Okay.
pretty soon. But I think giving it let's say 3 days for each thing, right? Give it a
Mhm.
fair 72 hours. And, you want to have it a couple times a day, right?
Right.
So it's yogurt in the morning, it's a little cheese on your sandwich, it's, the shredded cheese on your taco at the end of the day. That will give you enough data to really, say, okay, this is working or it's not working.
Love it. Okay, then what's next?
So then, you've got your new diet in hand, right? You've got the things that you're avoiding, and it's not about perfection or you're never going to have cheese again. It's just really about being able to make that informed decision. Um, and again, for me, the way I feel is so much better than the way I used to feel, and I have still that pretty immediate, gut check when I let things slip in. It doesn't mean I never have cheese, but it's definitely like, do I want to feel good or do I
Yeah.
not? You get to that's the beauty of being human is, we get to make the choice. So it's really kind of like, okay, moving forward, uh, I think I would keep the awareness up though, right? Keep
Mhm.
keep the stats. So if you did add a few things back, but you notice in a couple of weeks, like, gosh, my energy level is not where I
Right.
wanted. I'm feeling some of those symptoms again. Maybe it's going back to what you added back and say, okay, I'm gonna take wheat out again for
Yeah.
10 more days and see what happens, right? So it may take a little bit of reflection and coming and going. Um, but this is a strategy you can use kind of over and over again based on how you feel.
Well, the great news is it's really setting us up to win our health, and anytime we eat something, we now want to be very aware of, is it for me or is it not? Is it a 10 for me or is it really just a habit that I'm used to or a desire that I've got in my mind? Our mind plays a big, big role in how we win our well being. And so be excited about being for you. And just like when we go to the gym, we may get a little sore or it may feel uncomfortable, or certainly we may not like that we're not very good at it when we first get to the gym. Just be for you in a way that you make the commitment to this season. And so when you are for you and you make the commitment to the season, you know you're doing this for a couple of months maybe, and you're really going to see what does it take for you to be able to win your well-being. So thank you, Dr. Hunter. A pleasure as always. And team, I'm excited for you to get to win your well-being and go for it. See what works for you and what doesn't work, and see what makes the tens for you. So thank you and enjoy winning your well-being.
Great, thank you.